especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations.
Senator, can you comment on Smollett's case?
One of the reasons why Kamala Harris and many other Democrats bought into this immediately is because it was a convenient way to slander and smear half of the United States.
The University of California, Berkeley. A Turning Point USA recruiter was brutally attacked.
This person claimed we were promoting violence on campus and proceeded to take his aggression out on us.
Thousands of migrants flood our southern border. Right now, agents are ramping up security.
That is the same thing that the Border Patrol in El Paso is using along with K-Rails to harden the border integrity.
Move over, Colonel Sanders. There's a new man in charge of keeping KFC's secret recipe a secret.
What's the secret recipe? If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Write a check. Remember, you used to have to know the date?
Yeah.
I always look at my phone just to know the date.
Right. I look for the crane camera to take a shot of our rolling
So what's
zipper.
the date today? Is it the 22nd?
The 22nd Friday.
22nd.
But it's significant. What is February 22nd? This is something we learned growing up.
A week and a half
Remind
after
us.
Valentine's.
Washington's birthday.
Oh, Washington's actual
This is
birthday.
the actual
There you go.
day.
You should know that.
I know.
You brought up the date.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Happy
indeed.
birthday, Mr. Washington.
All right, listen, we have got so much news. Buckle in because we start with this.
All right, straight to a Fox News alert. Actor Jussie Smollett is maintaining his innocence at this hour as Chicago police accuse him in detail of staging an elaborate hate crime.
He is out on bond, already back on the set of Empire, shooting scenes.
Where he told everybody, I am absolutely innocent. Matt Finn is live in Chicago with why prosecutors believe this was all a big hoax. Matt. Chicago Police Superintendent and prosecutors here are slamming Jussie Smollett, saying he concocted this hoax because he was upset over how much he was being paid. And now for the first time, Chicago police are also alleging that Smollett did indeed craft that fake death threat letter with a MAGA return address and sent it to himself a week before this attack. And when that letter did not get enough attention, he proceeded with this elaborate hoax, paying the Osundaro brothers $3,500 to stage the attack on the streets of Chicago, pretending to be President Trump supporters that beat him, called him racial and homophobic slurs, and wrapped a noose around his neck. Details police now say are a lie. The judge in a packed bond court yesterday also chastising Smollett, saying the noose part is the most outrageous because it conjures up the greatest evil in this country's history. Chicago's top cop says the city embraced this actor, and then he turned around and slapped it in the face.
To make things worse, the accusations within this phony attack received national attention for weeks. Celebrities, news commentators, and even presidential candidates weighed in on something that was choreographed by an actor.
Smollett's legal team fighting back in a statement, writing in part, quote, "Today we witnessed an organized law enforcement spectacle that has no place in the American legal system. The presumption of innocence, a bedrock in the search for justice, was trampled upon at the expense of Mr. Smollett." Fox News has learned that Jussie Smollett did return to the Empire set yesterday, shortly after he posted bond and left jail. He's set to appear in court again on this charge of filing a false police report, and the FBI is investigating that alleged death threat letter, and if Smollett is found guilty of that, he faces some serious federal charges. Back to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Matt. This is unbelievable. He was back on the set yesterday, and he looked at all of the folks that he works with, his family, he says, and he said, "I'm sorry I've put you all through this and not answered your calls. I wanted to say I'm sorry, and you know me, I would never do this to any of you. You are my family. I swear to God I did not do this."
Swear to God I did not do this. This is unbelievably shameless, sociopathical.
Well, here's the thing. I was reading the Hollywood Reporter this morning, and, you know, he reportedly was complaining about his salary. Didn't like how much he was paid. You know how much he was making?
$60,000 an episode.
According to the Hollywood Reporter this morning, he was making $125,000 per episode. But just to show you...
Different reports are out there.
Right, absolutely.
60, 65.
I go with the Hollywood Reporter.
Okay, let's go with the bigger number. It's whatever it is, it's large.
New number.
60.
But here's another number. This just goes to show you how badly he covered his own tracks. $3,500 is the amount he paid the brothers with a personal check.
Yeah,
Isn't that a red flag?
By the way, that was one of the most interesting, fascinating, well-delivered press conferences. Just the facts. I'm telling you, to see that superintendent rattle off the series of events in order, express exactly what society thinks from the police perspective, what is at stake, the credibility, the wasted man hours that went into that, the way he put that together. If someone wrote that out in a script that Al Pacino had to memorize, I would say that was brilliant. To sit there and pull that off in that press conference was endlessly fascinating.
And he was saying how upset he was that this guy, we've supported him. We're all from Chicago. We love him. We've supported his career because he's a local. Here's the police superintendent, Eddie T. Johnson.
I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile? How can an individual who's been embraced by the city of Chicago turn around and slap everyone in this city in the face by making these false claims? Bogus police reports cause real harm. They do harm to every legitimate victim who's in need of support by police and investigators, as well as the citizens of this city.
I think one of the reasons the superintendent was able to get such a thorough briefing yesterday was because the brothers, who he hired for $3,500 and paid with a personal check, spilled the beans. They told him everything. The only thing that's still left hanging out there is whether or not they were involved in that hoax letter. And because I was reading Chicago CBS, they said that's unclear. But then again, that hoax letter involves the federal government, and that could have federal charges.
The two brothers said they were originally supposed to do this attack at 10 p.m. on the day of the attack. And he said they had to delay it because the actor was coming back from New York and his flight was delayed. But he said they sat in the car with him, with the actor, on January 25th, and they planned this attack. And then as far as the episodes are concerned, and the show Empire puts Fox in a tough position because they have a week and a half left of shooting, or a week of shooting. They have an episode and a half left to finish the 5th season.
You know, this is what every NFL owner in the league has to deal with all the time. You got accusations, you have accusers that seem credible, you have a thorough, and all of a sudden they go, "What? Nothing's been proven. It hasn't been proven guilty. How do you stop someone from making a living until they have their day in court?" Meanwhile, Kamala Harris immediately with some of the people, I guess he has a relationship with Jussie.
Because she had said initially that it was a modern day lynching.
Right, and so she came out and with had his back, and since that time has not said much. Yesterday, she went with Al Sharpton up into Harlem to meet with Al Sharpton. I imagine to get his support. Al Sharpton, an interesting situation because this reminds people in many ways of Tawana Brawley. Accusations thrown out, lives ruined, about a white cop, what they did to what he was alleged to have done to Tawana Brawley, which never happened. So she was asked about this. Listen to what they don't say.
Senator, can you tell us something about Jussie Smollett? Senator, can you comment on Smollett's case?
Reverend, this is bad for the party.
Senator Harris, can you comment on Smollett's
Come on, what do you think about Jussie Smollett? Did you jump to the smoking gun defense early? On the Smollett case? Good work, Sharpton. Good work, Sharpton. What did you talk about?
Well, that's when they exited from their 20-minute lunch, according to one of the newspapers here in New York City.
20 minutes?
A whole 20 minutes.
Snack.
Obviously, it was a photo opportunity. Because Kamala Harris did not say anything after all those questions, she felt obligated to put out a statement, and she did. She said, like most of you, I've seen the reports about Jussie Smollett, and I'm sad, frustrated, and disappointed. At the same time, we must speak the truth. Hate crimes are on the rise in America. We must always confront hate directly, and we must always seek justice. That is what I will keep fighting for. So they were asking him about about Jussie Smollett, but also on the way in, asking about her dad, because she had put out the comment about, look, the reason I smoke pot was because half my family's from Jamaica or something like that.
And she giggled.
And then he put out a statement, her own father, talking about how he did not like identity politics.
Right, and how his ancestors are probably rolling over in their graves,
Yeah.
and not to stereotype Jamaicans.
Now compare this the way Donald Trump handles controversy. Every single day, he handles like 5 major issues. He'll sit there in the Oval Office and take questions from everyone, mostly adversarial press. She's had 2 days where she has to answer questions. I don't consider that difficult. You know, you could honestly say, I believe the guy I got to know, and I'm really disturbed about what happened. No one blames her. She's handled crisis management terribly already. Compare that to the transparent president, like it or not. He sits there and takes questions. He took them last Friday after his emergency
Why not just
action.
be honest? Why not say, you know what, we were really good friends. I believed him because of that. The story is despicable and atrocious. I don't support this. Right. At least she did put out a statement, though. Cory Booker's not put out a statement.
Because she had to, when you looked at that video where it's like, why didn't she answer simple questions?
But guys, she could have dominated in the press. If she sat there with Al Sharpton, or if Al Sharpton walked away, he could walk away. She could have been the number one story.
I'm sure she and her team had that conversation last night because they put out the statement last night. I'm sure she was thinking, I'm going to do what Cory Booker's done and Kristen Gillibrand. They're all saying, you know what? We were rushing to judgment. We're not going to talk anymore until we know all the facts. And then she probably said, well, that's what my opponents are doing. I'm going to handle it in a different way.
Be a leader, right?
The rush to judgment was the initial comment that so many people made, and then they had to walk it back. It's the same as the Covington story, unfortunately. All right, a very busy Friday, as we told you, and now Jillian joins us with the news from that woman who wants to come back because she's sorry.
Yes, that's right. So let's get you caught up on what's new with that. So the father of the Alabama ISIS bride is suing the Trump administration to bring her home. Hoda Muthana's family wants to affirm she is an American citizen after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said she was not. The government claims her father was a diplomat when she was born in New Jersey, which would keep her from having American citizenship. Muthana is begging to come back to the U.S. with her son after joining ISIS in Syria in 2014. An IRS analyst is charged with leaking bank records of President Trump's former personal attorney. Federal prosecutors say John Fry gave Michael Cohen's financial information to Michael Avenatti, the attorney for Stormy Daniels. Now, according to an affidavit, Fry repeatedly searched law enforcement databases for information relating to Cohen. If convicted, he faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein speaking out for the first time since announcing his departure from the DOJ.
My time in law enforcement is coming to an end. A lot later than I anticipated when I joined the government 3 decades ago.
Rosenstein is expected to step down after the Mueller probe wraps up, which could be as early as next week. President Trump will nominate Deputy Transportation Secretary Jeffrey Rosen as the next Deputy Attorney General. Let's look at your headlines.
Right, so I guess his book will come out in about 6 months.
I know,
Right, absolutely.
Is that all he said?
It'll contradict Andy McCabe's as well as James Comey.
Thank you, Jillian. All right, meanwhile, on this Friday, a new caravan apparently starting to be on the move in Mexico as migrant shelters on our border are overflowing. Griff is live outside one of those shelters. He's in Mexico, and Griff is next.
That's exactly what Griff looks like. And it's a real-life Star is Born. The woman who blew Michael Bublé away at his own concert. And that's right, it's Bublé.
And her name is not.
At this hour, shelters are overflowing as thousands of migrants gather at the U.S. southern border.
Agents are ramping up security in El Paso, Texas. We knew that was a problem after a new Central American caravan unloads in Mexico.
And that is where Griff Jenkins joins us live at a migrant shelter. Griff?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, the new caravan better not come here in Ciudad Juarez because they say they're not accepting them anymore. They're full. Let me show you something here. If you look on this shelter, Casa del Migrante, you see the concertina wire, the barbed wire on top of here. Well, that's exactly what the Border Patrol in El Paso on the U.S. side is doing. They're hardening the border integrity. We saw the same thing in Eagle Pass when the overflowing shelter was in Piedras Negras. Before that, we saw it in California across from Tijuana. And so clearly they want to be prepared if Casey's numbers spill over because, as we reported yesterday, more than 43,000 illegal apprehensions in just this El Paso area in fiscal year 2019. Meanwhile, I spoke yesterday with the mayor here in Ciudad Juarez, Armando Cavada, and he says that the people of Juarez are very upset that they're here. They don't want anymore. They're not welcome like they were before because it's becoming a problem. He's upset that the neighboring Piedras Negras dumped their migrants over here. So that is a situation which will have to be dealt with. And of course, the threat of MS-13 continues out in Arizona. They arrested this man, Alonzo Alaman. He has at least 10 prior episodes of crossing illegally, admitted MS-13 gang member. That is certainly something that has to be dealt with. And then, of course, here in Mexico, the number everyone's talking about in January, 2,452 homicides countrywide. It is the deadliest January on record for Mexico. They're worried about it. The federal government is deploying troops and federal police here in Juarez. They're seeing a 6-year high. So the threat south of our border here in Mexico is certainly a real one. And then, of course, the folks hardening the borderline on the U.S. side. We're going to take you a little later this morning down there when you get a little bit of light and show you what that looks like. Guys?
All right, Griff, thank you very much. The threat by the numbers, and yet still not a crisis.
Yeah.
No emergency.
Well, I know there's 4 Democratic congressmen going down to see for themselves, Bernie Thompson among them, Chairman of Homeland Security in the House. I'm curious to see if they're going to come back and say, I do see a problem. It would be great to see someone observe what's going on down there because I don't know anyone who honestly looks down there and goes, seems to be going fine.
There are a lot of people that say it's manufactured.
Well, let's just hope they listen to the experts.
Yeah.
Because the experts see this every day. All right, Griff, thank you.
20 minutes after the top of the hour, this video is shocking. A conservative activist attacked while recruiting at UC Berkeley. Watch this.
Jesus Christ. What?
Wow, you're going to hear from the victim coming up. It gets worse than that, actually.
Plus, 5 Democratic senators have entered the 2020 race, but what have they accomplished? What do their records tell us about them? Charlie Hurt, checking their records. He's got the answer. Coming up.
All right, some quick headlines right now. Let's get started. House Democrats are introducing a resolution today to block President Trump's national emergency on our southern border. Big shocker. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro is leading the push and hoping to get a vote by next month. He also wants to be president. And Bernie Sanders is expected to sign a DNC pledge next week that he's running as a Democrat in 2020. Wouldn't that be novel? It comes after complaints that Sanders fought Hillary Clinton for the 2016 nomination despite being an independent. And the Puerto Rican mayor who ripped into President Trump after Hurricane Maria is feeling the burn. San Juan Mayor Carmen Joline says Cruz has just signed on to be a co-chair of Bernie Sanders' campaign. Cruz tells NBC she's been working with the Vermont Senator since 2016 to help Puerto Rico recover. There you go, Steve.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. More and more Democrats gearing up for 2020 with 9 candidates already declared. 5 of them are sitting U.S. senators, but do they have a record of accomplishment to stand on? They must. They're running for president. Here to break it all down is Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt. Charlie, we send our senators and representatives to Washington to get stuff done. The big question is, did these people get stuff done? Let's start with Cory Booker. Cory Booker, while he's been in the Senate since 2013, has introduced 120 bills. 2 have become law.
Yeah, and one of his latest proposals is that to start paying 18-year-olds around the country $46,000 a year for not working, for doing nothing. But you know, across the board, when you look at them, these are people. I think that they believe that representing constituents back home in Congress is a lowly thing. It's why they're here for 5 minutes, and they immediately think that they should be president. And they're running on feelings and politicizing everything from crimes to whatever nominations come along. That's what they believe in. They think that those are the credentials to run for president.
All right. Well, Elizabeth Warren, she's been in Congress, we know, in the Senate for a long time. She, during her time since 2013, has introduced 110 bills, and absolutely not one has become a law.
And yet she is also probably the most thoughtful of the entire field, probably the most carefully thoughtful, crazy socialist, but in terms of knowing exactly where she wants to take this country, she's probably spent more time than any of the rest of the field thinking about that. And for that reason, I don't think she's a terrible threat just because I think she's very unappealing. But from that point of view, she's kind of the most frightening because she put so much effort into it.
Well, plus she also was instrumental in the starting of that Consumer Protection Agency. She helped start it, and then she thought she was going to get the job from Barack Obama, and he gave it to somebody else.
Yeah, but that's the heart of her political philosophy.
Exactly. All right, Bernie Sanders technically is an independent, although the Democrats are going to make him sign a letter this week that says, I'm a Democrat. He has, during his long service since 1991, introduced 364 bills, and 3 have become laws.
And hadn't life been great for you ever since 1991 when he came to Congress? I mean, he's kind of fixed everything, hasn't he? He's really put his shoulder to the wheel, and we've seen some great results. But he's probably my favorite because he's been around so long. He was obviously in the House before he was in the Senate. And what does he have to show for it? Well, he has a bunch of. He had a great run in 2016, but the problem for him is, of course, he's kind of an old flavor, and Democrats tend to kind of move on. They want something fresh and new, and I don't know how he's going to pull all that together this time.
Well, nonetheless, the Democrats are starting to try to out Bernie because he did do so well. The big winner in this list so far, Amy Klobuchar of the great state of Minnesota. She has introduced 390 bills since she joined in 2007. 14 became law. Her problem, though, is we're talking about a primary, and she's more in the middle. She's not quite out at the wings.
Yeah, this is the funny thing about Amy Klobuchar. She's considered, because she's compared with the rest of the field, she's considered a moderate, reasonable person. This is a person who believes in that the government should require employers around the world, around the country, to enforce a minimum wage. Yet at the same time, she was not paying her own employees in the Senate a minimum wage. She had free interns working for free. Now, she changed all that when she decided to run for president. But this is a woman who couldn't bring herself to vote for President Trump's qualified nominees. Could not bring herself to vote for William Barr for Attorney General, who, by all accounts, is a qualified, independent sort of person. They're just simply not that serious. And when you consider that she is sort of the gold standard for being sort of a moderate among this field, it's kind of scary.
Well, it sounds like you read the Oppo research on her. Finally, Kamala Harris yesterday would not comment on Jussie Smollett or her father's comments about her. She, since 2017, has introduced 54 bills, 0 laws. But then again, when you look at, and it's not surprising that the record is so bad right there, but when you look at Barack Obama, remember when he was in the Illinois state legislature, I think he voted present over 100 times. So is it about having a record or not having a record?
No, I think it's not about having a record. It's about sort of capturing a feeling. And that's what these people are running on. They're running on an emotional feeling and trying to appeal to voters that way because they have no record and they have no accomplishments to point to.
Well, we've looked at the numbers. Charlie Hurt, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Thank you, sir. All right, 6:30 exactly here in New York City. Jussie Smollett has captured the attention of the nation, but will it have a lasting effect on race in our nation? Our panel is next to discuss just that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And the left likes to take down statues. Vandals burning this one of General Lee. The only problem? They got the wrong guy.
Our top headlines this morning. Actor Jussie Smollett returns to the set of Empire hours after posting a $100,000 bond. Smollett facing felony charges for filing a false police report in Chicago. Prosecutors believe he staged a hate crime as a publicity stunt. He could soon face new charges for allegedly sending a hate letter to himself. The father of the Alabama ISIS bride is suing the Trump administration to bring her home. Hotan's family wants to affirm she is an American citizen after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said she was not. The government claims Hotan's father was a diplomat when she was born in New Jersey, which would bar her from American citizenship. And House Democrats are introducing a resolution today to block President Trump's national emergency on our southern border. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro is leading the push and hoping to get a vote by next month. Jillian.
The man who opened fire on a California deputy was an illegal immigrant, Javier Hernandez Morales, seen in this really frightening video, shooting at Riley Jarecki during a traffic stop.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Firing back and killing Hernandez Morales. She, thankfully, was not hurt. According to ICE, Hernandez Morales has been deported back to Mexico 3 times and had a long criminal history, including battery on a peace officer. Officials say he had warrants out for his arrest and went by several aliases. A truck carrying 22 illegal immigrants smashes through an old barrier in California. Border agents were racing to stop the truck when the driver rammed into their vehicle, then ran away. Border Patrol arrested all 22 passengers left inside the truck. Drug users could soon have safe places to get high in Maryland, the first of its kind. A bill to create safe opioid injection sites is on the table. The pilot program would reportedly let opioid users inject with clean needles near trained staffers. A state committee passed the same bill last year, but later rejected it. It is 32 minutes after the hour right now. It's time to get a check your forecast. Janice, is it any calmer than it's been?
Well, it depends on where you live. Let's put it that way. You know, there was snow in Malibu, California yesterday. Crazy town. Yes, so let's take a look at it. Here are our current temperatures. I do want to point out across portions of the Mississippi River Valley, we're going to have a very spring-like system move in tomorrow that could bring the potential for not only flooding, but severe storms. Tornadoes. So we're going to watch for that heading into Saturday across portions of the Mississippi, the Tennessee River Valley. Flash flood watches and warnings are already posted. We get several inches of rainfall. So there's the rain there. That's going to be this big story. Then we have another system pushing into the northern plains, the northern Rockies. And look at the snow across the desert Southwest. That, my friends, is also a big deal. So there's your forecast today as we go through time. Am I taking a walk, Matt? Am I walking? Okay, I'm walking. Sometimes I walk, sometimes I don't walk. There is your forecast today. Again, watching the potential for some severe weather across the south, and then that snow across the desert Southwest. But here, look at 46 in New York. We'll take it.
We will take it.
Right?
Love it.
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. 2020 Democrats have been moving further to the left in an attempt to appear the most progressive. But how far is too far? Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk says Democrats are actually fighting to out-crazy each other. Joins us now with proof to back that up. Charlie, thanks for joining us here. I love that phrase, out-crazying each other. And example 1A is the Green New Deal / disaster.
Yeah, totally. Look, I mean, if you look at the details of the Green New Deal, it proposes banning 99% of all cars, pretty much obliterating air travel as we know it. The Democrat Party in the primary essentially come down to two really big things. Who can give away the most free stuff and who can hate Trump the most? Those are pretty dangerous things. And because look, as a country, we should never be about giving up free stuff, but expanding freedom and opportunity. And now you have Bernie Sanders coming in the race who said, wait, I was giving free stuff away before all of you guys. So essentially you have right now a booming economy, the country's turning around, and the entire Democrat Party is about giving away more and more stuff to more people and hating a successful president.
And of course, let's never forget about the flatulent cows. We can never forget the flatulent cows. You mentioned the economy turning around. A lot of people attribute that to tax cuts, but the left seems to want tax hikes.
Yeah, and I mean, so not only that, they're proposing wealth taxes. I mean, this is something that is profoundly new in the American political discourse. I think Elizabeth Warren has even put it part of her core policy to say, well, we should not just tax income, we should tax people's wealth. And so you have the Green New Deal, which is now it's embraced that any sort of challenging of people in the Democrat Party. In fact, when they said they're going to bring it to a vote, Mitch McConnell said he's going to bring it to a vote. He's then accused of trying to kill the bill. But you're trying to kill a bill, don't you want the most amount of people to vote on it? So tax hikes is another one that, as I mentioned in my FoxNews.com op-ed, the Democrats are trying to out-crazy each other.
Number 3, ending private health care.
Yeah, Kamala Harris came out with that, and I think she walked it back a little bit, but she said, oh, no, we can get rid of private health care, which even Howard Schultz, who's center-left, said, this is totally nonsense. This would destroy millions of jobs, essentially turn the entire American healthcare industry into the VA, and we know from experience and from data that has not worked very well whatsoever.
You alluded to it before, handouts for all.
That's exactly right. And look, so you're going to have Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker try to say, no, I've been trying to give away the most amount of stuff to the most amount of people. And again, that's just not who we are as a country. Medicare for all, education, free education, student loan forgiveness. And as someone who believes in free markets and believes in American exceptionalism, it's very concerning to see an entire party that just want to give away more and more free stuff.
And finally, it's amazing this is even an option, infanticide.
Yeah, and this is what's stunning to me, to be honest with you. This was somewhat of a news story for a couple days in Virginia, and then the news cycle kind of went towards some of the past mistakes that the governor made 20 or 30 years ago, but he still holds this really scary position on abortion. The president mentioned the State of the Union address, and it seems as if no one in the Democrat Party, at least running for president, disagrees with what I call essentially post-birth abortion. And if you look at the actual governor's words of Virginia, it's pretty scary what he stands for. So look, the Democrat Party's become more and more radical. Scary for America, but it's somewhat good news for the president because he'll be able to win back the middle part of the country and self-described political moderates.
We will see. We have months to have the Democrats figure this all out before they give us their nominee. Charlie Kirk, is always a pleasure.
You bet. Thank you.
It is just about 38 minutes after the hour. It's been over 6 years since Superstorm Sandy ravaged New York. Why the city's liberal mayor is now being told to shell out to pay up over a scam for relief fund. The bogus claims now drawing outrage.
And there's a throwaway. Waters into the crowd, spilled the beer. And will they cross the line then?
With beer. A basketball announcer getting creative when the play spills off the court, and it didn't stop there. More of this incredible call coming up.
Okay, Hollywood's biggest night is almost here. Award season coming to a close this weekend with this year's highly controversial Oscars.
Here to predict who will walk away with the iconic Golden Trophy is Fox News contributor Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, as always, a pleasure to see you. We're going to do this. Should win, will win, should win. And we're going to begin with Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, well, good morning to you, Todd and Jillian. Thank you for having me on. Very excited about the Oscars on Sunday. So supporting actor, I think this category is an absolute lock. I think Mahershala Ali is going to take home the award for Best Supporting Actor for the movie Green Book. He won a couple years back for supporting actor for Moonlight. I think this category is completely locked in. The only one that I want to win here, though, is I want Sam Elliott to win this award. But I think Mahershala Ali will win. Sam Elliott was obviously in A Star Is Born, but Mahershala will take it for Green Book.
Okay, what about Best Supporting Actress? Will win, should win.
Yeah, I think this is going to go to Regina King. So Regina King did an amazing job in a movie called If Beale Street Could Talk. Now, If Beale Street Could Talk was directed by the same filmmaker who did Moonlight. I think Regina King will win and should win. But should win, by the way, I do want to mention also Marina from this movie called Roma, which is an amazing performance as well. So I want Regina to win as well, but I also want to see Marina take it. So right now I'm kind of in between. But I think Regina King will ultimately take home this award on Sunday night for If Beale Street Could Talk.
Best Director, you have the same person in both categories.
I do, yeah, Alfonso Cuarón. I mean, this is one of the most incredibly directed films I've seen in a long time, and just the idea of what a director does. And this filmmaker shot the movie in absolute continuity, meaning he shot it in order. He didn't give his actors a script. Everything you're seeing is actually genuine reactions from actors learning what's happening in the story. So it's very, very cool how he did it. So I think Alfonso Cuarón will win and should win on Sunday.
Okay, Best Actor. You've told us before, I know who you think should win. Who do you think will win?
Yeah, in this category, I think Rami Malek is definitely your frontrunner. He has won a lot of awards leading up to this. The only person I think that could surprise here would be Christian Bale. In my opinion, I think Bradley Cooper deserves to win this award, but right now, Star Is Born really kind of fizzled out in the award season. I think Rami Malek takes home the award of Bohemian Rhapsody for Freddie Mercury on Sunday night, for sure.
Now let's go to Best Actress.
Yeah, this is another one, Glenn Close. I mean, this is, in my opinion, a career award. She's going to win for a movie called The Wife. It's an amazing performance. She's an amazing actress. I think Lady Gaga should win this award. Again, I think Star is Born's kind of fizzled out throughout award season. I think Glenn Close did a great job in that role, and she's been nominated before, but she's never won. So I think they're going to give it to her for career, but also performance. So Glenn Close is my prediction for will win. Gaga should win.
Ooh, okay, let's stick with the Star is Born theme. Do you think that film wins for Best Picture?
Yeah, and this, honestly, I have never seen an award season like this where there is absolutely no frontrunner right now for this Best Picture award. I don't know who's going to win. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Roma will end up winning Best Picture on Sunday night. That's the Netflix movie that's directed by Alfonso Cuarón. That movie won a lot of major awards leading up to it. See, here's the thing, though. You have every different movie has won different things. Green Book won the Producers Guild Award. Alfonso Cuarón won the DGA. So there's a lot of different guilds that were given. SAG went to Black Panther. So you have a lot of different films that could win Best Picture. Black Klansman, Black Panther. You could see A Star is Born. You could see Green Book. You could see Vice. There's so many movies out there. I think A Star is Born should win. But ultimately, I think Roma will win. But don't be surprised if you hear Green Book or if you hear Black Klansman or if you hear Black Panther. I'm kind of cheating here, but there's just so many movies to choose from, and that's what makes this show so exciting. We don't really know what's going to happen for Best Picture on Sunday night.
Definitely winning for Best Dressed is you, my friend.
You stole my line.
Thank you for joining us, Kevin.
I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me on, and pardon me if I seem a little tired. I just landed from LA about 2 hours ago, so thank you for having me on.
That's awesome.
This sounded okay.
We love the McCarthy energy. Time now, 46 minutes after the hour. Jussie Smollett's web of lies unraveling after staging, allegedly, his own attack.
How do you not believe that? It's the truth. I will never be the man that this did not happen to. I am forever changed.
From hate crime to hoax, the question everyone is asking now is why. The clinical psychologist weighs in next.
But first, Steve Doocy with what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Jillian. I missed earlier. I sat down during Kevin McCarthy. Was I supposed to wear a tuxedo today?
Yes.
Where's your tuxedo, Deuce?
It's funny. Once upon a time, my wife told me an event was, formal. I put on a tuxedo. I went there. I was the only one in a tuxedo.
Better to be overdressed than underdressed.
Everybody thought I was a waiter. They just wanted to know where the shrimp was. All right, coming up on Fox and Friends starts 14 minutes from right now. Of course, we're going to be talking about what is going on out in Chicago with Jussie Smollett. Also, a number of presidential contenders who were asked about the situation, and one very prominent one dodged. You'll see that. Also, as we have heard this morning, apparently a conservative activist roughed up at UC Berkeley. What's up with that? We've got a great panel of people who are going to be talking about the news today. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is going to be with us, the Attorney General of the great state of Florida, Pam Bondi, the Senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott, and of course it's a Friday, and that means it's Geraldo Rivera, who will be on in about 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'll call him and tell him he should wear tails.
White tux and tails.
See you soon, Steve.
I'm sure he's got it. All right, see you later.
And we're coming right back. Alleged hate crime hoax unraveling before the nation.
How can you doubt that? How do you not believe that? It's the truth. I will never be the man that this did not happen to. I am forever changed. I was talking to a friend, and I said, I just want them to find them. And she said, sweetie, they're not going to find them.
Well, now everyone wants to know why in the world would a person make up such a terrible story. Here with his analysis is clinical psychologist Dr. Norman Free. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jillian.
Everyone now is asking why. Sometimes you can go back through social media, even different accounts and different things that people have stated to find some reasons why. So let's go ahead and to be clear, you do not treat Jussie. This is just, we're getting your opinion.
Jussie, and I'm just giving conjecture from my experience
as
a clinical psychologist.
Let's take a look at some of his social media posts and tell us what you think about it. Okay, Let's take a look at this tweet on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and it says, "At AOC is the only one speaking facts." This, by the way, was during that partial government shutdown. And he goes on to say, "This is so far beyond political party affiliation across the world, no matter the border from sea to shining sea. 45, speaking about President Trump, and all his white hooded cohorts are a national disgrace. If you support them, so are you. clowns. Looking back at that, knowing what we know now, what do you make of it?
It's an interesting statement, and actually, when you take a look at it, it's quite embarrassing, because what's happening is there's a recapitulation of an unconscious process slowly unfolding, whereby Mr. Smollett is almost spilling the seeds of his own conscience, saying there's fraud about here, but it's coming from the inside.
And you mentioned fraud. He goes on in another tweet to say, quote, and this is, by the way, after he allegedly sent himself, we're now discovering that letter in the mail with white powder in it, and he says, quote, frauds are everywhere, y'all. It goes on to say, protect the mind, heart, and spirit of you and your people at all costs. Just remember, salt, cocaine, and anthrax can all appear to be sugar, the refined kind, of course. Just be careful out here. It seems like he kind of knows a lot of what he's talking about there.
Well, it's fascinating because there's this gravitas, there's this bluster, which is really almost being spoken in an attempt to hide the small, empty ego that feels the sense of shame. But instead of expressing that, there's these comments of, you better watch out there because there's danger about.
Do people get to a certain point where they actually believe the stories they've made up?
It's a fascinating question. I actually believe that, and I can't tell you whether Mr. Smollett believes these things, but I do think that in an attempt to break out of their inner shame, they begin to tell their story so often that it becomes their sole definition of who they are.
You know, it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. We appreciate you breaking some of those down for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration will pay over $5 million for trying to scam FEMA. Court records show they submitted bogus claims that 132 DOT vehicles were ruined in Superstorm Sandy, asking for $4 million. But it turns out the vehicles were damaged before Sandy struck New York.
A flag honoring police now returning to a state capitol building after it was removed for being, quote, offensive. Some Connecticut lawmakers claiming this thin blue line wooden plaque was disrespectful to the Black Lives Matter movement. Now one of the representatives is requesting for its return after the police union explained what the flag means. Time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. As always, we start with the good. Get behind the vest. That's what a 6th grader wants for his 12th birthday.
As I grew up, I learned more and more about them and how they're saving lives and helping people. They're out there putting their lives on the line for you, for me.
Oh, gotta love it. Talon Joint asking for donations to a project that gives life-saving and bulletproof vests to officers in Chicago. The initiative has given more than 8,000 vests to officers.
Great stuff. Next, the bad. A girl trying to take a picture of her outfit drops to the floor. After slipping off her bathtub. Not good. The Oklahoma teen stands on the ledge, trying to get her full outfit in the shot. She says next time, maybe, she'll ask a friend to take that.
Set it up on the counter. Yeah. Do the little 1, 2, 3, go. Yep. All right, finally, the ugly. When an NBA player spills into the crowd and knocks over a fan's beer, TNT's Kevin Harlan makes sure everyone knows about it.
But it's in the guy's here.
Could be soaked in worse things, I guess. The fan getting drenched in beer after Celtics forward Marcus Morris dives after a loose ball. Celtics ended up losing to the Bucks 98-97.
During the tease, I erroneously said it was Kenny Albert. It is Kevin Harlan. Both amazing play-by-play guys. Both have the same voice.
Serious correction here.
Serious correction.
That you needed to make. Thanks for joining us today.
And you can't get covered in other things other than beer at a game.
You can.
It's happened.
Have a good weekend, everyone. No words. Fox and Friends starts now.
Bye.